right, y'all, I got a confession to make. My TBR pile has been taken over by cozy books. Sort of. Kind of. See, what I find cozy may not be what other people find cozy, so it's kind of a unique mixed bag there. And the thing is, what makes a book cozy can really depend on the individual's preference. That being said, as I have shown in other episodes, there are definitely some different benchmarks for this particular adjective, and I'm pretty good at identifying them because, well, sometimes your friendly host here has bouts of anxiety or depression or such like, and then I pick up books that are cozy so that my brain won't get even more overstimulated, scared, doomed, anything by the book that I am reading. It's just called survival, and it's called the impact of books. Like, books can really impact your brain in all those fantastic ways, or not so fantastic. So sometimes, or all the time, you just have to use discernment. And in this episode, which is the continuation of my quarterly roundup, I am going to be sharing with you some of my weirdly cozy picks for my current TBR pile, and how even the books that I finished from the previous quarter kind of fit into that cozy genre in a strange way. And with that, for those authors out there who are listening or watching this video, you're going to pick up some more insight into what makes a book cozy versus not cozy. So hopefully that will give you some ideas whether or not you want to dial up the cozy or whether you want to dial it down and bring the doom. And then, of course, readers, these are some really fun picks for you to pick up. And because mostly they are cozy stories, they're pretty easy just to hop right into. And I'm excited to share them. So I'm Janina Polito. Let's chat. Hey there, welcome back to Author Culture, where we're all about helping authors find sustainable success in a chaotic publishing industry. And we're also about sci-fi and fantasy joy, because these are awesome genres. I am a sci-fi and fantasy author, and hey, it's my podcast, and this is what we like to talk about. So if you are here for writing insights, marketing ideas, publishing thoughts, or just fandom excitement, you're in the right place, and we are so glad that you are here today. And if you'd like to continue celebrating sustainable success and sci-fi and fantasy joy with us, make sure that you've hit that subscribe button on YouTube and hit the notification bell as well, or just hit that subscription button on iTunes, on Spotify, or wherever you are listening to or watching this podcast so that we can continue hanging out together. So let's dive right into this episode with some of the books I actually finished in the last quarter. First one, Winter's Maiden. And this one just really, really brought it. And I am so glad I got it in hardback, which it was on a good sale on Amazon. So I just clicked that buy now button and grabbed it. And it is a really nice hardback. And it was a really, really fun book. And oddly cozy, sort of not, but also kind of yes, because I know this author. I mean, I literally know Morgan L. Busse. We've taught at conferences together, and she is an amazing author friend, but also I am very familiar with her books. I have read a number of them, and I'm familiar with her style. And so when you know an author's style and they have that wonderfully consistent style, even though, you know, with different books, they have different takes and different angles and all of that, stepping back into one of those authors' books can be comforting in its own way. And so even though this book was all the doom and, well, some darkness and painful things and lots of stabbing, it was oddly very cozy because, oh, it's a Morgan book. I know what Morgan books do. This is fun. I will keep reading the Morgan book. And so that kind of cozy, that attribute of cozy does kind of break the mold of the idea that cozy books themselves have to be inherently, you know, warm, squishy, and low stakes. This one is not really warm, squishy, or low stakes, but it's cozy to me because I know the author. I know what she brings to the table. I know what I'm getting, and that is very comforting to me. So maybe you have this angle as well when you are reading various books, and you might have authors that people might say, wow, this isn't really that cozy. But because you know the author's style and you know what they bring to the table with their books, it doesn't matter what they're putting out there. you're going to read it and it's going to feel cozy because you know them and you know what their books are going to contain roughly. You know what you can expect. They have that really kind of strong personal brand with their writing style, and it makes it cozy just to read one of their books. And so I do love the world building for this book. She did a great job adapting Nordic vibes and Nordic feels to the story in a way that was well done, not an overload, but very interesting and really in a way that serves the characters and the story. And I'm really picky about people adapting real world cultures into story worlds because you can go too far one way or the other, etc. I'll do an episode on it in the future, talking about adapting cultures into books because, hey, my degree is literally in cross-cultural studies and communication. It's kind of my jam. But this book does it really, really well, and I really enjoyed that. I love me a stabby heroine. I love me a hero who is a gentle giant healer, but, could probably also knock someone flat with a clothesline if he so chose to. And yeah, great book. Can't wait for the next book. Really enjoyed this. Glad it's going to be on my bookshelf. Another book that I enjoyed that was sort of oddly cozy in a strange way of Janine likes dark, whimsical fairy tale retellings and mythology retellings. I did really enjoy Ties of Deception by Alice Ivinya. I thought she did an incredible job of adapting the myth of Hades and Persephone in a way that reflected the core motifs of it without going overboard and while still keeping the story fresh. And again, because it was familiar to me, I know the story of Hades and Persephone very well and various versions of it. Even though the book is kind of doomy and literally involves life and death, I still found it kind of cozy. So we're going to go with that. And I would recommend it if you enjoy stories of Hades and Persephone because it is a well-written version of it. And the world building was really fun. I thought that she, again, adapted some ideas and the spirit of Grecian cultures and various Asian cultures without going too deep because, again, this is a novella, so you're not going to go super deep into the world building, but she adapted the concept of it and the vibes of it really well. And when you're adapting cultures and you don't have a lot of space to go in depth, I always really recommend that you get the vibes of it and the feel of it and work with that rather than trying to do too many specific things because if you don't have enough space, you're just going to be specific but do it badly. So go for general vibes instead. So Ties of Deception, Alice Ivinya, enjoyed it. Oddly cozy, literal life and death stakes in some cases, and a little tiny novella, but because it's Hades and Persephone and because I knew it was going to have a happy ending, I still consider it cozy. And Domestication by Seth Ring. This one is very cozy to me, and maybe he would agree with this too if you're out there, Seth, because it's so much about the story of this mage warrior coming and having to farm in a video game. It's kind of like this doomy warrior coming off of the fields of battle from Baldur's Gate or something, and then going into Stardew Valley. And his job is to figure out how to grow wheat that's not contaminated by poisonous magic. And I'm okay with this. Again, the content is super chill. It's fun. You don't really have to worry about anything bad happening to the main character. He is so OP, and I'm okay with that again. So that is something that my pick aligns with the idea of cozy being low stakes. You're not worried about massive threats happening to the protagonist. John Sutton is going to be fine. He is going to be okay. And sometimes at the end of a long day, when I am reading a book before bed, I just want to hear about John Sutton figuring out 5 million spells perfectly, wonderfully, and achieving the goals competently. It feels very satisfying after a long day when perhaps I didn't get to all of my goals. And so really did enjoy Domestication. And as I'm going to mention in a second, I have hopped onto later books in this series as well. Really enjoy how Seth works within the environment of lit RPG. It's very accessible, but if you're familiar with video games like I am, you're going to get a lot more in-jokes. And then if you're a total gamer, I'm familiar, beginner, but I get some stuff. If you're a total gamer, I'm sure you're going to get even more in-jokes and Easter eggs, which is great. So yes, Domestication, really enjoy it. Wanted to get a signed paperback from Seth at Realmakers, and he was out. But it's okay. I got a different book of his instead, and I will be enjoying that in the future, I'm sure. And then The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Yes, I finished it. I'm not sure how in any way, shape, or form I can call this one cozy, but I did finish it because, dang it, I wanted to finish it. And it is very good, very doomy, lots of twisty things happening, lots of unexpected things happening. Did thoroughly enjoy the book. Am looking forward to going ahead and reading the next book in the trilogy. Probably not at this point because I can't really make a justification for this one being cozy at all unless you just find lots of stabby fae politics cozy. But because she does keep a lot of the plot twists coming and she keeps you guessing on a lot of things, and that main character, man, she just gets beat up, but then she beats up everyone else too. Anyway, I enjoyed it, but definitely putting the second book in the trilogy on pause until my brain is in a place where it can handle that kind of story just a bit more than it can right now. That's the way things go. And in terms of world building, I love the classic world building concept of the Cruel Prince. She really plays with a lot of fun fae ideas from folklore and then puts new twists on them, and I really enjoy that. Her fae are very fae. They're very different from human. It doesn't feel like they're human with kind of a fae costume over top. They're very different. The way they think about the world is very different, and that is really fun to read on the page. And also she manages the urban fantasy concepts really well. And with this trilogy in particular, it's sort of like an urban fantasy if most of the story took place in the Fae world, whereas a lot of urban fantasy is the Fae kind of coming into our world or half and half. This one is mostly the Fae world, but it's okay. I love it. The vibes are still this wonderful mix of high fantasy and urban fantasy. And I will definitely be hopping back into this trilogy and into the second book in the future when my brain is just a little more settled down and I'm ready for all the crazy twists and turns that I'm sure this book will be bringing. And now we're on to my currently reading pile of books. And of course, I do have a reputation to maintain here. And yes, according to my Book Mori app right here, I am still in the process of reading 13 books. It's interesting if I actually finish too many books and I start taking them off my TBR pile, then I add more on there so I can keep reading more of those books. I like a variety. I like to be reading different books at different times. And maybe because a lot of my life is really driven by having to get things done and things checked off my list, it's kind of nice to have something where I can just keep adding books and adding books and adding books and no one can tell me not to. But also I like to finish books. And the thing is, if a book is solid and has really grabbed my attention, then I'll just binge read through the rest of it and get it done anyway. So the concept of, I'm reading exactly 13 books at the same time, eventually some of those books just kind of speed ahead. And I end up just finishing them ahead of a few other books. And with all that being said, my first read on this list is Monster Therapist by Paul Regnier. Paul is a reliable author for humorous fantasy adventure comedy and humorous sci-fi adventure comedy. Monster Therapist is just so tight. It is one of his most tightly written stories, and it is so much fun to read. It just keeps you going right through it. Again, chill, laid back, fun, humor, adventure, hijinks, all of that stuff. I love that this character starts off as a monster therapist after the squad of shadows broke up and he went his own way as everyone else did, and he gets pulled back into it, and the rest of the remaining squad members get pulled back into it to rescue their old leader. It is fun. The world building is just right. It feels like light D&D/light medieval fantasy video gamer vibes. It's really easy to fall into if you're familiar with any kind of light medievalish sort of fantasy vibes there. And the voice is spot on. Regnier does a fantastic job with his first person POV voice, and I am sure that I'm going to finish this book soon and then have to get a paperback copy for my bookshelf. So definitely do recommend this book. And the next book on my currently reading pile is Peace Weaver by Everly Haywood. And this is actually a rec from the amazing H.L. Burke, also known as Heidi. And I'm really enjoying it. It's one of those that you might look at it and go, okay, Janine, I understand the humorous fantasy adventure comedy. I understand why that kind of files under cozy. What are you doing with an angsty sort of romanticy thing? What's that doing there? All I can say is it follows a lot of patterns of fairy tales, and for me, that is cozy. And the fact is, because it is a standalone fantasy with romance / romantasy book, I know it's going to wrap up at the end, and I'm going to get an HEA, and it's going to be okay. And so because of that, there's a bit of that catharsis in reading the doom, but also knowing that the doom is getting you on the way to the HEA. It's well written. It's tightly written. There are plenty of doomy moments, but they don't linger too long. And it's just fun to read in a doomy, semi-dark way, featuring a captive healer being forced to travel to the enemy country in order to heal their prince so that he can marry the princess of the country that's holding her captive so they can have a peace bond. Okay, so considering I wrote Met by Midnight, which also features a captive healer and her having to help a prince, okay, fine. Maybe I just have a type and that's why it feels cozy. But anyway, it's fun in its own special way. I'm enjoying it. The world building is really well done. It's really woven well into the story in bits and pieces. And we have different kinds of elves, and we also have humans. We have conflicts between elves and humans that make sense. And I really love the description of the main character's sand magic and how she uses it to heal. That is just a treat to read, and it's really well done. So I am looking forward to continuing this book. And you know, I did go on to Germination, which is the second book in Seth Ring's Battle Mage Farmer lit RPG series. It is equally cozy in an adventure gamey kind of way where the main character faces lots of obstacles, but you know he's competent and he will defeat them, and he's really OP, and that's okay. It's fun, it's doomy, but not too doomy, has great descriptions, and is weirdly calming for a book that also has a lot of doom. So really have enjoyed this one. And I guess it features a little more into the cozy side of things where you have an OP character that you know is going to save the day, and you have that level of competency, and you have nice soothing interludes where he just sits there and he learns spells and he just figures things out and he puts things together and he spends pages figuring out perfect systems for how to solve things, and then a new problem comes up and he fixes that in 2 pages. And maybe for someone like me who creates systems a lot on my daily work and is always having to solve problems, getting into a book where the problems are solved easily and in a comforting way, and there we go. It's just very soothing. So that's where I am with that, and I am really enjoying Germination just as much as I enjoyed Domestication, which is the first book in this series. A part of cozy can just be the competency of a character and the way that everything tends to work out for them. And some people might go, but isn't that a Marty Stu or a Mary Sue if it's a girl? I mean, I guess. Depends on why you're reading the book. This is why it's always important to try books out for yourself. And I think I should really talk about reader responses about those things in a future video. At this rate, I keep mentioning future videos so much that y'all are going to be stuck with me for a long time. So keep hanging out with me because it's going to be a great ride. The next highlighted read on my currently reading list is Just Stab Me Now by Jill Barrett. You might have seen some of her shorts on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube, where she has fun shorts where she talks about weapons and makes fun of weaponry and books and talks about those things. But she also has a really fun series of shorts where it's an author of alternate history, historical romance, talking to the character who is just not going along with her plan. And it is fantastic. It is a hoot. She does a great job with it. And so, since I enjoyed those shorts, I decided to go ahead and grab Just Stab Me Now. I'm glad I did. I am burning through the pages of this book. It is so much fantastic metafiction. The voices are so well done. The humor is on point. The world building is a bit different because it's metafiction. So you're getting the story within a story. You're getting the story that the author is writing, but then the story goes on pause as the author talks to the protagonist and the love interest and the side characters, and then you get some time back in the real world where the author is having to work her day job and deal with the frustrations there and deal with maybe having a crush on her editor. And it's all done in a very fun, humorous way. So if that appeals to you, go ahead and grab this book. A lot of the world building is primarily just based on that metafiction setup. This is really good author style metafiction where you're just getting the vibes of writing the story, arguing with the characters, trying to deal with real life being stressful. It's really well done, and I am enjoying it thoroughly. And last but not least, and this one I am shamelessly going to read this off my computer screen because this name is awesome, but it is also long. So here we go. Miss Percy's Pocket Guide to the Care and Keeping of British Dragons by Quenby Olson. And I referenced this in my last video, and it is delightfully cozy. It was recommended to me for years by the amazing Carrie Ann Noble, and I am reading it. I am enjoying it. The voice is spot on perfect, and it is just a fun, cozy read. And out of all the books on this list, this one qualifies the most for being classically cozy and checking all the boxes. I mean, sure, the stakes of having a baby dragon hidden in the backyard of a vicarage in Regency-ish sort of England, there might be some doom involved with that, but the way it's written is so chill that you don't even care. And I just think this is an absolutely delightful book, and I can't wait to keep reading it and seeing how it ends. And so one of the takeaways from this episode, besides the fact that some of you out there may have just added 5 to 10 books to your TBR pile, to which I say, sorry, not sorry. One of the things is that there are definite definitions of what cozy means and definite ways to say, okay, this is cozy. But at the same time, reading is also a personal experience. And so there can be extra elements outside of a book and elements of what the reader brings to the table that alter how a book is read and a reader's individual enjoyment of that book. As we've seen, Winter's Maiden, I consider that a cozy read. Objectively, probably not a cozy read, but for me, cozy because of the connection with the author and the familiarity with her books and understanding what I'm going to get out of those books. I would say the same thing for Peace Waver by Everly Haywood. Concept? Maybe not so cozy, but because I know what is being brought to the table and kind of the framework for my brain, that makes it cozy. So sometimes cozy maybe doesn't mean light and fluffy, but it can mean familiarity. It can mean tropes that you know and love. It can mean books that follow a certain pattern that you know is going to be comfy. And it can even be characters that are, yes, just a bit or just a lot overpowered so that you can have the satisfaction of seeing those wins happen on the page, even when it doesn't quite happen in real life all the time. And that can be its own kind of escape. So, all you readers out there, do you have a weirdly cozy book on your bookshelf that you grab and it's like, oh, this is a comfort read, but other people just do not get it? Go ahead and share in a comment. I would love to talk some books with you. And authors, also do share those fun, cozy reads and share about any books that you might be writing or might have written that have cozy elements in them, even if it's not the most conventional kind of cozy. Because as I've shared in today's episode, cozy doesn't always mean cute little cafes with cats and pumpkin pies in the windowsill. It can mean a bunch of different things and ways that connect with different readers, ways that might connect differently with a male reader versus a female reader or different personality types. And so, yeah, let's talk cozy, both expected cozy and maybe also weirdly cozy. And I'm not sure why this is cozy, but it's cozy for me, and that is okay. And if you want to hear more of my conversation about cozy books, go ahead and hop over to my episode about the secrets that you can learn from the Fantastic Four movie about what makes something classically cozy. And thanks so much for hanging out with me today on the Author Culture Podcast. It is always fantastic to see you here. This is Janina Polito. Go forth and be awesome.